there was a lot of, and I do appreciate you guys being here today, trust me. There's a lot of destructive legislation, in my opinion, that was done in 2017, like gutting collective bargaining, employers chipping away at issues that have already been negotiated, cutting funding so that 4 Planned Parenthood clinics closed that serve almost 15,000 women, an unnecessary voter ID law that is combating a non-existent voter fraud, and banning a living wage raise. And now there's lots of bad bills for 2018, like the heartbeat bill and the Bible literacy bill, and our state is facing this substance abuse and mental health care crisis, continued cuts to DHS and my field corrections. We can't afford those cuts and the disastrous privatization of Medicaid. But today I want to talk about the $1.7 million settlement awarded to the staffer that had come forward and for help in dealing with severe sexual harassment in the Senate, and she was fired 7 hours later. To date, she's the only person who was fired because of sexual harassment in your office. Senator Whitwer, I just want to know, what was your role in firing Kirsten Anderson? Do you stand by Majority Leader Dix's continued claim that she was fired for poor performance when obviously a jury decided otherwise? And why should taxpayers be on the hook for this bill and not the people that are responsible?
I want to be clear about this. Most of the incidents that happened many of them were before I was in the Senate. Everything happened before I was in leadership in the Senate. I had no part in this. My name was not brought up in trial. It was not brought up in deposition. I was not mentioned as a listed party. I had no role in this. My role now as Senate President is doing whatever I can to make sure this situation never happens again. When that lawsuit came out and the settlement was done, we immediately did an internal report of the Senate to see what areas we need to continue to improve. We brought in a consultant, a volunteer consultant named Mary Kramer, who was the past president of the Senate, and she also has 15 years or so experience in HR. We asked her to provide us recommendations and said, whatever you provide us, we are going to do. No strings attached, bring us recommendations, we'll get that done. She released that about 3 weeks ago. We immediately hired a new HR person in the legislature to oversee personnel issues. I believe that person is from Ankeny. I had never met her before we hired her. We made every senator sign a statement of conduct so they understand exactly what is acceptable and what is not, and what the penalties will be going forward.
This isn't a debate, Roger.
The next big step, I've been working with Senator Peterson and our new HR person to work on a bipartisan basis to update our personnel handbook. I look at my role going forward as doing everything I can as President of the Senate to make sure this never happens again.
There's 2 other parts of my question about the continued claim for poor performance and why should taxpayers be on the hook for the bill.
Ms. Anderson sued the state, and under the state law, whoever you sue is who pays. And so I know there's ideas to. I know there's ideas to look at that, and those are going through the committee process right now.
I would hope so.
Thank you, Sean.
We should have to pay for that.
Jay?